Nation! What is good? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very important episode of Run It Back Philly because we are one day. I felt like this looked weird. I had it zoomed in a little bit. We are 1 day away from the NBA draft. And I just saw a chat comment that said, one more day of this bullshit. One more day of this bullshit. We will finally find out what the 76ers are doing at number 3 in the 2025 NBA draft. I'm going to say it again. I don't remember the 76ers being this high in the draft and not having any idea what they're about to do. We all thought Ace Bailey was a lock because of his build and his upside. 6'9", 210, 7'1" wingspan, quick trigger, ISO handle, just incredible potential. But then everything came out with his agent and his camp, and it's becoming clear that they're trying to force him into a specific situation. And now we have another Draft Express episode, I guess you could call it, ESPN Draft Express. And Ace Bailey's camp has basically made it clear exactly which teams he would like to be drafted by. Of course, the 76ers are not named in that camp. We're going to talk about that report. We're going to talk about everything. Hit the like button for me one time. Thank you for being here. Give me 1 million likes on this stream if you appreciate it. Some people hated it, but if you appreciated the fact that I went live every single day covering every single draft report possible for an entire month, giving you free content in between the draft lottery and the NBA draft. If you appreciate that, do me a favor one time and just hit the little thumbs up. And if you hated it, well, you're still here and you can't stop coming back because you love me. Yeah. Oh, and I figured today we would try to take some calls on the Discord. If you have an opinion that you want to share, the Discord link is pinned to the top of the chat. Just click that link, go right into the call-ins on the left column of the Discord. Put your name in the call. Just click on the call-ins waiting room, mic up, and I'll put you on the show. All right? Yeah. Let's get into it, man. Producer, you're fired. I really got to get a new producer, man. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. Hold up. Window capture. Where's it at? There it is. Here is the latest on Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey's preferred destinations are the Wizards, Pelicans, and Nets. So his camp is making it perfectly clear that he does not want to be drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. And I'm going to give my opinion on what I think the 76ers should do because of that, but we're going to listen to what Jonathan Gavani of ESPN said on this matter, and we're going to react to it. But yeah, they're basically saying we want him to go to the Wizards, Pelicans, and the Nets. This lines up with all of the reports that had come out before, claiming that they are looking for a team that gives him a pathway to becoming a star. Basically, Ace Bailey is getting terrible advice from not the smartest people in the world who, or you know, not that they're not the smartest people in the world. I think they have their own agenda. I think his agent or whoever is putting out these reports or whoever's giving him advice wants a pathway to him becoming a star as soon as possible so they can get paid. And you're talking like a LaMelo Ball shoe deal and things like that. They're not interested in Ace Bailey going to an organization with other great young players and forming a young core that could potentially win something in the future. They are interested in Ace Bailey's brand and making money. And it depends what you want. Like, does LaMelo Ball ever want to win, or does LaMelo Ball enjoy chucking 27 three-pointers per game for the Charlotte Hornets and having a shoe deal? It's not. I'm not saying it's like some evil thing to do, or that it's going to ruin his career, because at the end of the day, you're looking towards a rookie contract, and it depends what you believe. If you go to a team where you're the number one option right off the rip, Washington Wizards, probably Brooklyn Nets. I don't know about the Pelicans unless they move Zion. But if you go to a team where you're the number one option right off the bat, does that give you a better chance of becoming an NBA star? Maybe an individual star, and in today's world of social media and fame, maybe it gives you a better chance of making the most money the quickest. And I think Ace Bailey is probably going to become a star player no matter what team he goes to. I don't want anyone to think that we are just writing off Ace Bailey suddenly, and we're like, oh, if he doesn't come to the Sixers, or you're ruining his reputation with this draft nonsense and it's going to ruin his career. I think Ace Bailey is such a good prospect that there is no ruining his career. He could be the next Kevin Durant. He could be the next Tracy McGrady. He could be the next Michael Porter Jr. I don't know. Nobody knows. I know a lot of people like to act like they know. But we're basically just pondering where you want him to go for the first 3 years of his career, which then you would be obligated to sign a rookie extension. I honestly, from thinking about what it does for him, I don't actually think it affects his career that much, because he's 18 years old. He'll be 21, barely 22 at the end of his rookie contract, at which point he could become a free agent, I believe. And if he looks like he has insane potential and he put up 35 shots a game on the Washington Wizards for 3 years, teams will still give him a max contract. So, as I've slept on it for a couple of nights, I understand what his camp is doing. But I don't think the 76ers should fall for it. Let's listen to what Gavani said on the Draft Express on ESPN about this. And then I want to tell you what I think the 76ers should do. Here is Jonathan Gavani on this report.
Well, we have Ace Bailey 6 right now to Washington. That is what we understand to be one of his preferred destinations. 6, 7, or 8, Washington, New Orleans, or Brooklyn. He has declined all invitations from Philadelphia at 3, like we said, Charlotte at 4, and Utah at 5.
He declined invitations to work out for the Charlotte Hornets and the Utah Jazz.
But today we started hearing some rumblings that one of those teams at 4 or 5 could just decide to take Ace Bailey with their pick regardless, potentially for a trade. Maybe one of those teams at 6, 7, or 8 decides to make an aggressive move. Does Washington decide to move to 4, to get ahead of New Orleans or Brooklyn? Both of those teams have the assets to move up if they want. So I could really see Ace Bailey anywhere in that 4 through 6 range right now.
Yeah, see, there's a couple things here. It's interesting that It's interesting that Jonathan Gavani is reporting that Ace Bailey has refused to work out for the 76ers, the Charlotte Hornets, and the Utah Jazz. But then he says he could see the Charlotte Hornets or the Utah Jazz drafting him anyway. He doesn't throw the 76ers in there. He doesn't say, I could see the 76ers drafting Ace Bailey anyway at number 3. So there's that. There is also the potential for a team to draft him and then trade him. It's happened plenty of times throughout history when a player or the player's camp makes it clear they don't want to play for a certain team. They're like, all right, we could trade down and that team could draft you, or we could just draft you, and then we have all the leverage. And then if we want to trade you, if some of these teams are that high on you, and you're making it clear you don't want to be here, and we decide that we don't really want to deal with it, the Sixers, the Hornets, or the Jazz could play that game of, we're still taking you because you're that valuable now to the teams that you have said you want to go to. The Washington Wizards, the Brooklyn Nets, the New Orleans Pelicans. So the 76ers, I don't know why he didn't put the 76ers in that scenario where he said, like, I could see a team taking him anyway. But the 76ers, I feel like, could draft him anyway and then drive up the price from the Brooklyn Nets or the New Orleans Pelicans or the Washington Wizards. I think that might be the most likely scenario at this point. I want to look at a couple of things here, and I used good old Google AI to get the answers here. Show me all professional athletes that tried to force their way to a team in the draft or tried to avoid being drafted by a specific team. Here's all the players we got. And then we're going to look at teams that drafted a player anyway, even after they made it perfectly clear they don't want to go to that team. Bo Jackson, John Elway, the highly touted quarterback prospect, threatened to pursue a baseball career if the Baltimore Colts drafted him in 1983. The Colts drafted him, but ultimately traded his rights to the Denver Broncos. I'm starting to feel like that's probably what's going to happen because Ace Bailey is that high of a prospect. When you look at Vj Edgecombe or Trey Johnson, I love what they could bring early on in their career, and I love what they could develop into, but I can't see a team just straight up I can't see the Sixers. I know I've gone back and forth so many times, but this is just how my brain works. Today, here's what I feel like. For the people that are like, you switch up all the time, maybe I do. Here's what I feel like today. Maybe that's why you guys tune into this channel. I need to hear what DJ Eastwood feels like today because it's probably different than what he felt like yesterday. Today, I feel like I can't really see the 76ers just straight up passing on Ace Bailey. I think I see them drafting him and trading him if his camp continues to make it clear that he doesn't want to be here. Eli Manning, before the 2004 draft, his father informed the San Diego Chargers he would not sign with the team if they drafted him first overall. Now, he had a little bit of leverage because, when your dad's Archie Manning and your brother's Peyton Manning, teams are going to take you your camp a little more seriously. The Chargers drafted him anyway, but traded him to the New York Giants. So there's two examples of the team drafting him anyway and then trading him. Jim Kelly refused to play for the Buffalo Bills. NBA, Dominique Wilkins, drafted by the Utah Jazz, didn't want to play for them and was traded to the Atlanta Hawks. Kobe Bryant was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, forced to trade to the Los Angeles Lakers. Steve Francis refused to play for the Vancouver Grizzlies after being drafted second overall. And then I said, show me teams that drafted a player even after the player's team made it clear they didn't want to be drafted by that team. Bo Jackson was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Did he get traded? That was probably back way before teams had this much leverage. Jackson opted to play baseball instead, and the Buccaneers forfeited his rights. Wow. And then a couple years later, Elway did the same thing. No, 3 years before Elway did that. Threatened to play baseball if he was drafted by. That's pretty crazy to be like, you know what? I'll just play baseball. I hate your team so much. I won't even play football. That's crazy. The Chargers drafted Eli Manning and traded him. The Bills drafted Jim Kelly after publicly stated his aversion to playing for cold weather teams. The Bills drafted him at number 14. He refused to sign, and then he joined the USFL. He later joined the Bills after the USFL folded. That's crazy. Dominique Wilkins was drafted by the Jazz, but left the team reportedly due to financial reasons and his desire not to play in Utah. That's interesting. I should have looked a little bit more into the Dominique Wilkins situation. The Clippers drafted Danny Ferry in 1989, but he refused to play for them. Vancouver Grizzlies and Steve Francis. You got the the Kobe Bryant with the Charlotte Hornets, or was it the Charlotte Hornets at the time? Yeah, I think it was. And they traded him. So I'm starting to land on the 76ers are going to draft Ace Bailey because he's that valuable to the teams below them. If they don't get a good enough trade-up offer, if the 76ers don't get a good enough trade-down offer from one of those teams, I think they're taking Ace Bailey, and I think they're using him as a trade piece. I think that's the most likely scenario. We got to look at how Daryl Morey acts. Daryl Morey is a little bit of an egomaniac. He's not afraid to play hardball. Daryl Morey threatened to let Ben Simmons sit out his entire career, which would have been 3 whole years. And the 76ers started fining him millions of dollars. Daryl Morey was very willing to play hardball in that situation. I think he will be very willing to play hardball in this Ace Bailey situation. And not that that's what's best for the team. Don't forget that either. Daryl Morey played hardball with the Ben Simmons situation while the fan base was begging him to stop playing hardball. We were like, just trade the guy. This is not good for the team. Daryl Morey did not seem like he cared at that time what was best for the team. He wanted to play hardball. And I think this Ace Bailey thing, even if it's not best for the 76ers right off the bat, Daryl Morey will probably be very interested in fighting fire with fire and just drafting Ace Bailey anyway and either telling his camp to shut up or trading him. There's also this. What happens if you draft a player and they refuse to sign the contract? If a player drafted into the NBA declines to sign with the drafting team, they cannot simply sign with another team. They must wait until the next NBA draft, forfeiting the chance to play in the league for an entire year. The drafting team retains the player's rights for 1 year, meaning the player cannot enter free agency or sign with another team until the following year's draft. So if you draft Ace Bailey anyway, and you play hardball, and you say, listen, we drafted you, you're playing for us, and that player's camp says, we're not signing, you could keep playing hardball and you could say, fine, you're going to sit out for an entire year. Now you can't go back and play college for a sophomore season. You can't go to the Euro League. You can't do anything. We have your rights, your basketball rights for an entire year, and you would have to come back and re-enter next year's draft. And you would, I think the threat you could use in that situation is you are destroying your reputation. And if you wait a whole year and come back into next year's draft, do you think teams are still going to want you as much as they want you right now, or are they going to be totally turned off by your mentality in this whole situation? I think you could play hardball like that. Now, at the same time, if you draft a player that high in the draft, they refuse to sign and they elect to sit out for a whole year, then you kind of screwed your team over because now you don't have a player. You tanked the whole end of last season. Now you don't even have a player in the draft because he's refusing to sign and he's sitting out. And so then I think that's the counter by the players' camp, which then forces the team to make a trade within that first year, because after that year, you don't have the players' rights or anything. You basically lost a draft pick. So you could play hardball. You could say, we're drafting you anyway. You're playing for us. His camp could say, we're not signing. You could keep playing hardball and say, fine, sit out for a whole year. They could keep playing hardball and say, all right, we'll sit out for a whole year then. And then you would have to trade him anyway. But I think my prediction now, going into tomorrow's draft, is that Daryl Morey is down to play hardball if that's what Ace Bailey's camp wants to do, because I just think he's too good of a prospect, and he's too valuable of a prospect to teams below us to just straight up pass on him. When you look at Vj Edgecombe, I like what he can bring to you, but he's 6'5", $180. And when you look at Quentin Grimes and, Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey, and you just kind of say, I don't know. I don't know if you sign and trade Quentin Grimes, maybe, but Quentin Grimes showed something last year that you would hope Vj Edgecombe one day is capable of doing, dropping 40-plus points on NBA teams on high efficiency. It's tough for me to see the Vj Edgecombe thing with the fit and the fact that you would be straight up passing on a 6'9", 210-pound 18-year-old with a quick trigger and an ISO handle. My prediction is this. Ace Bailey's camp continues to try to play hardball and force their way to another team. Daryl Morey drafts him anyway because too good of a prospect, also much too valuable to the teams below us. And then Ace Bailey's camp either gives in and he plays for the 76ers, or they continue to play hardball and they basically force a trade. I think the most likely scenario right now is the 76ers draft him at number 3 and trade him. That's what I think. What do you think in the chat? Where are my members at? Jabbar, right, what's going on, man? Keep talking about what we're going to draft, but does it really matter? The reason I bring that up is because Nick Nurse is still our coach. He doesn't want to play any young guys. But I think Nick Nurse, I don't know who you're responding to in the chat, but I think Nick Nurse, yeah, he doesn't want to play young guys, but he doesn't want to play... Nick Nurse is reluctant to play young, unproven guys, especially like undrafted guys or second-round draft picks like a Dembona, which I thought was ridiculous. I thought he should have had run right off the bat early in the season. I thought Justin Edwards should have had run right off the bat early in the season. But when it comes to a number 3 overall pick like Ace Bailey, I don't think Nick Nurse is would bury him on the bench. If you're talking about Vj Edgecombe, maybe Vj Edgecombe would get buried on the bench by Nick Nurse. But at the same time, when you're looking at a coach with an ego like Nick Nurse has, he would be fighting against the 76ers organization. If a team drafts a player that high, the team wants that player to play. And if the coach isn't going to play him, then you just fire the coach. You know what I mean? It's not like the coach is in charge of the entire organization. If you draft a player that high and the coach won't play him, you fire the coach. And that's what would happen to Nick Nurse. I guarantee it. If they would go 5 games and that top draft pick didn't get a minute on the floor, and the 76ers start the season 1-4, which is probably going to happen anyway, he would get fired right in the first week of the season. Za, what's up, man? Trey Johnson is starting to get increased buzz in recent days as an option for Philly, but it's easy to make the case that he has the most upside out of all these players because of his shooting ability. I think his shooting ability is incredible. I think he has... it wouldn't be redundant with Maxey and McCain because he has a little bit more size than both of those. I think it would be redundant if the Sixers are planning to keep Quentin Grimes. I don't know why I drew a blank right there. I just don't see it, man. I don't see the Sixers ending up with Trey Johnson. I don't really see them ending up with Vj Edgecombe unless they get one of those players in a package deal. You know what I'm saying? Like straight up passing on Ace Bailey and just taking one of those guys doesn't make much sense to me. When they can draft Ace Bailey, hold his rights as a trade piece, and force one of the teams below them, give us Trey Johnson. Say the Pelicans draft Trey Johnson. Give us Trey Johnson and Herb Jones and something else. And we'll give you Ace Bailey. You know what I mean? That's what I see them doing, man. That's what I see them doing. Hey, man, thank you guys for hanging out so far on this show. 578 people in here. Thanks for being here. Hit the like button for me one time. We're going to take some calls on the Discord, man. We got C. Mooney on the Discord. Let's see if I can get you in here. See if I remember how to do this. I think we got to go this way here. C. Mooney, you there? Yo, C. Mooney in the Discord.
Hello.
What's going on, man?
Not much. Hold on. I'm just trying to fix this. I'm trying to...
It's all good, man. You're live, bro. You're fixed, man. You're live, man. What you got?
So I know you were saying get Herb Jones and a pick, but is there any way the Sixers can manage to get Trey Murphy?
I would love Trey Murphy, I think, but I think the New Orleans Pelicans are absolutely insane if they trade Trey Murphy. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Trey Murphy's a throw-in kind of guy. I think Herb Jones is a very valuable player, but I don't think he has the star potential that Trey Murphy has. I saw Trey Murphy last season. As soon as Zion went down, he went on a tear for like 4 straight games where he averaged like 35 points a game. He's a 6'8" wing that has a handle and a shooting ability. Trey Murphy showed, at least me, in my opinion, potential star potential. I don't understand why the New Orleans Pelicans would be interested in trading Trey Murphy at 24 years old. That's what I think.
Yeah. I was just saying if there's a way they could make a package, the Sixers, because I'm going to guess that New Orleans wants Ace badly, but I don't know how badly to get rid of Trey.
I don't know. I mean,
because I know the other option was get Cam Johnson in a pick, but to be honest, I wouldn't even do that.
If I get Cam Johnson, Cam Johnson has had injury problems, but I like Cam Johnson as in theory, you know what I mean? A tall 3-and-D guy who can catch and shoot, and has some combo game and can score on all 3 levels. But if say the Nets draft Vj Edgecombe, for example, I don't know what number the Nets at 5. I
think they're like 8 after.
Oh, they're that far down. Hold on. We got Charlotte at 4. Who the hell's at 5? Wizards are at 6. Pelicans are at 5. No, Pelicans are 7. Anyway, if they would end up with a player and Cam Johnson, yeah, that's not the greatest return for. I don't think I could see that happening. But yeah, I would love Trey Murphy, but I don't think the Pelicans, you know what I mean? Why would the Pelicans trade Trey Murphy?
Yeah.
At 24 years old with the potential that he showed. Unless they feel like Ace Bailey is that much more.
I just feel like
of a
they
prospect.
think Ace Bailey's really that. Yeah.
If they're that high on Ace Bailey that they want to trade Trey Murphy, yeah, I'd say yes to that all day. I'll take I'll take Trey Johnson and Murphy. Or I'll take Vj Edgecombe and Murphy, you know what I mean? But I think we're on the same page that I wouldn't straight up pass on Ace Bailey. I would trade down, or I would draft him and use him as a trade piece.
Yeah, I think you would have to trade him and force a team to make a trade.
Yeah.
And maybe get even more of what you thought of that you would get.
Yeah,
because
I think so.
This is the only player that I think has like the highest ceiling, and I think a lot of teams like Brooklyn, Washington, or New Orleans would do anything to get him.
Yeah, the potential to change a franchise for the next 20 years. I think you're right. I think Cooper, Flagg, Dylan Harper, and Ace Bailey are still those 3 players, and everyone else, it's a little more, far-fetched for them to become like a franchise-changing player. Yeah,
and I think the Sixers at that third pick have like a lot of power right now to do a lot of things with that pick.
Absolutely, man. I agree, man. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for calling the show, man. C. Mooney on the Discord. Yeah, great call, man. I agree with that. I think the Sixers are, I think they're in a spot where you're not going to straight up pass on Ace Bailey. I think they're going to draft him, and he either plays for the 76ers or they trade him. Leandro on the Discord, man. What's up, Leandro? Leandro, what's up, man?
What's going on, Eastwood?
Not much, man. What's going on? Just trying to kill this last day until the NBA draft, man.
Now, I didn't think about drafting Ace Bailey and trading him until you brought it up, and I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense because like Vj Edgecombe, like I do like his potential, but he's not somebody you want to draft at 3, right? Like no.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I don't think so.
They like, what if Concanipple falls down, and then we get Concanipple and Herb Jones? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's another good one, man. I think that's another good one. Like that's the thing. If his camp's gonna refuse to sign, or if you draft him and you just don't want to deal with the situation, but you're just using him as a trade piece, that's another good trade package that a team could offer. Because I think Concanipple is a player that can fit right in. He might be the best shooter at the top of this draft. The best catch and shoot guy. He has I think has a Klay Thompson ability. You know what I mean? And he has like a real combo game too that people don't really talk about, where he can handle the ball, get to the rim. and finish at the rim. I think Concanepo, and he has like a facilitating ability too. Concanepo has a good all-around game, and he's good size, and I think he'd be a good player in a trade package. And if the Pelicans want him that bad, I would probably say yes to that too. I'll take Herb Jones and Concanepo, and then I would try to re-sign Grimes and keep it moving.
Honestly, because I'm outside of Dylan Harper, and he's gonna be gone. So there's really no guard that I'm really interested in taking. Because like, listen, Maxey, McCain, and then you'll have Grimes off the bench, and then you're gonna have another guard. Like that's a little too redundant. So yeah, Concanepo is somebody I'm really eyeing. So like, even if we trade back with the Jazz, and then then there's Ace Bailey that goes, and then who would the Hornets take? You know, I hope they don't take Con, but we got to see what happens.
Yeah, I think the top 5 is going to be, is going to have Trey Johnson and Vj in there, and I think Canepo goes probably 6 to the. Who did we say was at 6? My brain doesn't work today. Jazz are at 5. Hornets are at 7. Chat, who's at 6? But yeah, man, I completely agree, and I think if that's the best trade package you get for him, it's Concanepo and Herb Jones. Maybe you take that, man.
100%. You get 2 wings.
Yeah.
And then I had a crazy idea. What if? Wizards. And this isn't going to happen, but what if we had Paul George coming off the bench and we had Maxey McCain, let's say Herb Jones, Concanepo, and Embiid. But then we have too many wings with Edwards, and so it gets complicated. But
Paul George coming off the bench at $50 million a year would be a disservice to everybody involved. You got to if you were going to do that, you would just work out a way to trade Paul George, because and Paul George, I don't think he's the kind of player to do this, but would he even come off the bench, or would he be like, nah, dude, trade me right now? I'll request a trade if you think I'm going to come off the bench. That's degrading to a player, and I don't think he's good anymore, but for his career, that would just be, I don't think Paul George is a bench player quite yet, man.
I mean, listen, if Klay Thompson got benched last year with 4 rings and still, a quality player, then, But
that's true. That is true.
Too.
That is true, man. But I don't know. Something about Paul George just tells me that wouldn't go over very well. Is it like Paul George's ego? Probably. He still talks about himself as an NBA superstar.
Honestly, if you could throw Paul George in that deal, honestly, I would. Yeah,
I would too, man. I don't know, man. I don't think Daryl Morey would, because I think he's hell-bent on proving that was a good signing. But if he would, I'd be happy about it, because I don't want to deal with the Paul George thing anymore, man. I don't. But if Paul George is healthy, he's still a very good, defensive wing who can catch and shoot. I've come around on my Paul George hate lately, man. I think I just need him to be healthy. I need Joel Embiid to be healthy too. I need everybody to be healthy. None of this is probably going to happen realistically, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
Also, if you have Canepo and Paul George as your starting wings, I think that's very good fits around Maxey and McCain, because you get size there, and you also get catch and shoot and floor spacing around Embiid. But everybody's got to be healthy.
Maxey, McCain, Canepo, Paul George, Embiid. Starting 5. I mean, I guess I don't hate it. Hey, man, thanks for calling the show, bro. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on, DJ.
Yeah, man, anytime. Leandro on the Discord, man. Great call. Great points. Great points, man. Yeah, I don't think you can bring Paul George off the bench. I think Paul George is a little too high on himself these days still, that he would probably just straight up request a trade if you said you're coming off the bench. I also don't think that's realistic with Nick Nurse's affinity for veteran players. Nick Nurse ain't bringing Paul George off the bench, just like he wouldn't bring Tobias Harris off the bench. If you can trade Paul George for depth and a lottery pick, why wouldn't you do it? Well, It's because Daryl Morey is hell-bent on proving that Paul George is still a good player, and it was a good signing. We all have to remember how much of an egotistical maniac Daryl Morey is, guys. You know what I mean? I answer these questions not with what I would do. We need to talk about what we think the 76ers will do. And Daryl Morey is the guy in charge. We are not in charge. Somebody just dropped something in the Discord. Za, what up, man? Let me click on this real quick. And let me see if I can share this so we can read it. Za, thank you for posting that in the Discord, man. Let me see if I can bring it up here. There we go. If I'm Ace Bailey, who said this? Hold on, let me see who said this. Paul George on the latest episode of the podcast P. Oh, okay. Paul George said this. If I'm Ace Bailey, I can't get mad if my stock drops. But he canceled all workouts. He hasn't worked out for any team. But you're not in a position to be making those demands. Make it to the league first. It's for sure the people around him. I don't know who's representing him, but I don't think they're going about it the right way. Now, listen, man. First of all, bro, this is why you can't be a podcaster and actively be on an NBA team. I can't have you out here on a podcast talking negatively about a prospect that we might want to draft as a trade piece, or we might want to draft despite all of the negativity that's surrounding him. He is 100% correct. Of course he is. Paul George is 100% on the money with this. But I can't have an active NBA player talking about a prospect on a podcast. This is the problem. Who the fuck does Paul George think he is? You are not ESPN. You're playing for the team that you're talking about. Now he's straight up throwing shots at Ace Bailey's camp as an active member of the Philadelphia 76ers. Unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable. Paul George, please shut the fuck up, dude. Get off the goddamn podcast until you're done playing basketball, dude. This guy is a fucking dumbass. Hey, thank you for that, Za. I'm not saying he's wrong. It's just ridiculous, dude. It's ridiculous. You are not ESPN. I just want him to shut up, man. But hey, listen, thank you guys for hanging out. This is the last draft rumor episode of this show. The NBA draft is tomorrow. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do an NBA draft watch along solo or if I'm going to bring some of my people on to react along with. But I'll let you guys know. Stay in tune with the social medias, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And thank you for being here. Subscribe if you're brand new. Thank you for calling in on the Discord. We're almost done, guys. The NBA draft is tomorrow.